Hello?
Hello, is this Vernon Wells?
Yes.
Hello, this is Dustin Wellness from KMSU Radio.
Oh, hi there, Dustin. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good.
Are you ready for an interview?
Sure, let's do an interview.
All right. I'm here with my co-host, Ton.
Hey there, how you doing?
Hi there, Ton. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
I did pronounce it the right way, right?
Oh yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Well, we'll get started here and ask you how you got started in acting.
Well, way back when I was a little kid, I grew up in the country with my grandfather on a farm, and the only thing we had to listen to, I mean, that was way back before there was television out there in Australia, was the radio. And I used to listen to all of the radio serials before I went to school, which was like Biggles, and all these Superman, and all these things. And it used to intrigue me. I used to love it. And, of course, like a kid, I used to go out and act it out all the time and be the characters. And as I got older, I moved back down to Melbourne with my mother. And my mother is a songwriter. She isn't anymore, but she was. She wrote songs, country and western songs. And I had a love for music. So I formed my own group. And I worked with a young man by the name of Gary Anderson, who eventually ended up in Rose Tattoo, which was a big punk rock band in Australia.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, he actually did the third Mad Max. He did Thunderdome. He was in that particular film. But we did bands together, and, we grew up together going to the same schools and things like that, and we were in bands together. And I went on doing more classic rock and roll, and he kind of went into the punky side of things. And that's where I thought I would be. I was a rock and roll singer, and I was having a lot of fun. And I was involved in a rather bad accident with the band truck, which temporarily ended my career. And while I was recovering, I became a rather large pain in the butt to our manager, who decided that the only way to get rid of me was to go out and get me a job as a model or something where I wouldn't hurt myself. So he went out and found an agent who was willing to take me on as a model, and I started doing modeling. And from that, I moved into working on television projects, did quite a lot of television, and then stage projects, did stage. And from all of that, I was doing a stage play by Michelle Tremblay called Hosanna, and George Miller's then girlfriend, Sandy Gore, saw a performance and suggested to George that he should talk to me about The Road Warrior, and that was where it all began, so to speak.
Yeah, what was it like on the set of that movie?
It was a lot of fun, actually. Everybody that worked on the film knew that we were making this great little film. Nobody ever, of course, imagined that it was going to become what it became. But we all knew that we were making this great little movie, and it was as cold as God's own hell, truly cold. But it was just a lot of fun doing it. Everybody put in 120%. We all loved what we were doing. We're all young and go for, let's do it. We're all going to jump off that mountain. Yeah, let's do it. It was just a lot of fun, and it ended up being a great film. And I was just very fortunate that I was cast in the role I was cast in, which became this, for why I have no idea, but just became this iconic character. So, that was where it began, and if it hadn't, I wouldn't be talking to you now.
Would you say is that maybe the role you're most recognized for, or no?
Probably that and Commando. A lot of people recognize me for the role I did with Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando. They recognize that. But yeah, I mean, I'm very recognizable for Road Warrior, which I never understand. I don't know how people put me together with that role now, but they tend to for some strange reason. And then, of course, you've also got Weird Science, which people, of course, latch onto because of the character being very similar to the character in Road Warrior. So they're kind of what I'm known for and recognized from. But then, it's kind of fun because in amongst all that, I've got about 130 odd films. So
Wow.
there's a lot to choose from.
Well, yeah, I would say that our personal favorite would be Commando. What was it like working on the set, and what was working with Schwarzenegger like? Was it a fun atmosphere?
Yeah, Mel and Arnold, both of them. I mean, people ask me a lot, what was Mel like? Well, Mel and Arnold were the same. They were both like big kids. It was like working with 10-year-olds. They loved to joke and they loved to do fun stuff. Not at any stage did I ever have a bad moment with either one of them. I had a ball working with Mel. He was one of the nicest people that I knew, and so easy to work with. And Arnie was the same. I had a little more trouble understanding anything Arnold said, but that's a joke. But Arnie was kind of cool to work with. The funny thing was when I got the cast in the role of Bennett about 3 weeks after they had begun production, because I believe that the person that was doing it originally had left the role, and I was cast. They got me to come from Australia to do it, because I'd seen them before when I was over here doing Weird Science. And Joel Silver had produced Weird Science, and he was producing Commando. So I was sort of cast out of Australia and came on to the production when it was in production. It was filming. I had no idea who Arnold Schwarzenegger was. I couldn't even pronounce his name. I had no idea who he was. And it was kind of fun when I first came on the set, because I was just totally blasé to anything and anybody. But it was a lot more. It was probably about as hard a film on my body as Road Warrior was. It was very, very demanding film, and very enjoyable, because I love all that kind of thing. I love getting into the action side of things. So I had a lot of fun doing it, and I love working with the crews over here. And that was kind of my real introduction into working in America, and consequently, I never left after doing that one.
So did you end up doing a lot of your own stunts in Commando?
I didn't. I did everything I could do. Yeah, all the fight scenes and all that side of stuff, crashing through walls, all that I did. Yeah, it was all the physicality. I did as much as I could. In Road Warrior, I did the same. I did everything that George Miller would let me do. And he used to kind of tie a rope to me and chain me to a post, because if you leave me alone, I'll go and do everything. And usually I end up breaking something while I'm doing it, which really pisses directors off for some strange reason. I don't know why.
Can you think of like maybe your favorite memory of being on the set, or anything funny that happened in particular?
My favorite moments on the set, believe it or not, were with Melissa Milano. We got on really, really well, and I used to have a lot of fun with her. She was just such a sweet kid, and I kind of took her under my wing. I became her big brother and looked after her. And probably one of the funnest things on the set was that Arnold was always pulling jokes on everybody, and I had my caravan was near his, and one day him and his posse went over and they took all the supports out from under the back of my caravan. And when I walked in, I walked straight up to the back of the caravan and sat down, and the whole caravan tipped up on its ass. Scared the living crap out of me. But it was just little things like that. It was always, everybody was trying to get everybody, and I really enjoyed the whole thing. What we did. I don't think there was anything that really stood out. All of the action sequences I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed the travel because and the things that we worked in. I got to work in John Wayne's boat. The Grey Goose was one of the boats, the boat that they used in the film. And we did a lot of the filming up at San Simeon, which was way up the coast. So I got to do all these really cool things. And you must remember, it was my first time in America out of a studio. I came over to do Weird Science, but that was all shot at Universal Studios, so I never really got off the lot for that whole film. I arrived, did the film, and went back home. So this was my first time of actually being allowed to go out and play with the big boys out in the streets of Los Angeles. So I had a ball.
Awesome. Well, one last Commando question for you.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it to wear that awesome chain vest that you had on?
My chainmail vest. When I arrived, the costume had already been made and done. I was virtually wearing what the guy for me had been wearing, so I had no input whatsoever into any of that. And the actual vest is called a Stokers vest. It's made out of wool, and it was used in the First and Second World War by British stokers in the bows of battleships. They used to wear them when they were stoking coal into the boilers. So if any sparks came out of the boiler and hit their body, they wouldn't burn or catch fire, because those vests, they sweat a lot down there, of course, as you probably realize. They absorb all of the sweat, so they become very moist. And apart from keeping them cool, it also kept them safe. So they're actually called a Stokers vest. Everybody was so convinced that it was chain mail, and so was I, up until about 2 years ago. I always thought that it was fake chain mail, but I guess it was in its own way, because they made it silver, so it looked like it was chain mail. But there's a little bit of information that you didn't know.
Well, we're glad we know it now. That's
yes.
Yeah, you can use that as a question in your thing, give them a bottle of brandy or something. Say, hey, anybody that answers this question, you get a bottle of brandy.
So you mostly ended up getting cast as villains all the time. Do you feel like you were typecasted for that, or what's your feelings on it?
No, I figured that if you're as big and ugly as I am, what else are you going to do? I think it's because Road Warrior, Commando, and a couple of other things I did, the characters suited the way I work. I was able to bring all that emotional thing into them, so people liked it. As I progressed and got a little older, I think most of the time now I get cast as the good guy, which really was very difficult. The first time somebody cast me in a film as a good guy was probably one of the worst movies I ever made. I was so terrified of playing this hero type person. Even though I was just the hero's best friend, I was just terrified of it. I just could not do it. It was so scary. It was just funny that playing a villain, you're never playing anything about who you are. It's a character you create. The whole thing is an illusion. When you get into being the hero type or the good guy type, it's a whole different matter, because now a lot of who you are goes into the character, because you're playing a character very similar to who you are in real life. And that's very difficult, because to try and put that out there on film or anywhere is really a scary proposition. So I prefer being the villain. I don't have to worry about it. I just go out there, kill people, and eat dogs and all that shit, and then it's really cool. I don't have to worry about it. When I'm playing the good guy, it's like, oh God damn it, now I got to be nice. I'm not very good at being nice. I'm sorry.
So you said you've done, you've obviously done 100 plus, different films and things over the years. What is your personal favorites over all the stuff that you've done?
Well, the funny thing is, I'm sure that everybody would say, oh, well, Road Warrior or Commando and Weird Science and Innerspace and all those films. They were all great films, don't get me wrong. I love doing them. I prefer sometimes the small films simply because there's a lot more genuine, emotional commitment from the cast and the crew to do it, because you have to be there because you want to be there, because there's never a lot of money involved. When you tend to do big films that have big budgets, I mean, they're wonderful to do, and the people doing them are great working with, but you have everything you want. You know, if you want a tank, you go out and hire one, sort of thing. When you're doing a small film, if you want a tank, somebody's got to figure out how they can go steal one, or how the hell you can make something that looks like a tank. So there's a different mentality, which I love. And I think one of my favorite films was a little film I did called Circle Man, which was a boxing film I did a few years ago about a retarded boxer, which I really, really loved. It was just a little film, and I really loved my performance in it. So, you know, I think some of the smaller films I really, really like, but, you know, you can't get away from the fact that Road Warrior and Commando and Weird Science and Innerspace, things like that, made my career. So, yeah, you know, I like them as well.
Well, do you have any films you're working on now or anything upcoming?
I just finished a film in Mobile, Alabama, called Relentless Justice, which will, I guess, be coming out this year. I have another film coming out called Alien Hunger, which is a fun film that I did where I play the local sheriff, being the good guy. And a horror film that I did in Australia called Nowhere Else, which I produced, which is a two-parter. We've shot the first part one, and I believe at some stage later this year or early next year we'll be shooting part two back in South Australia of a horror film.
Oh, sounds
And,
awesome.
of course, there's a couple of other things I've been offered. A sequel to a film I shot called The Lackey, which is in Cannes at the moment, which hopefully gets shot later this year. And I'm also doing the show that I like the best at the moment, which is a little internet show called Western X, which is it's a sci-fi western, which I really think is one of the best things I've done.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's on the internet, so if you want to see it, all you have to do is go to westernxtheshow.com and you can see all the episodes.
Awesome. We'll have to check it out.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. And I'm doing the odd, I call them odd because when I get there, they're always odd. The odd convention, I'll actually be in the Phoenix, Arizona for the Phoenix Comic Con. And I'll be in St. Louis for Contamination next month. How's that for plugging myself?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
Well, do you have any last words for us, final thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, if I don't like this interview, I know where you two are, and I'll come and get your asses.
Sounds good.
No, I just, you know, I love what I do. And I always feel blessed that I'm allowed to do it. And the same thing goes all the time. When I go to conventions and things, what makes our careers, and the thing that we always have to remember, is people like you and the general public that actually pay the money to rent the video or put their butt on a seat at the theater. And my satisfaction is talking to people who enjoy what I do. And if you are able to talk to people that enjoy what you do, you know you're doing something right. And that's what the whole thing's about. And I just love that.
Awesome.
There you go. We definitely would fit that description.
Well, thank you. My pleasure. And I mean, you didn't want me to do the classic line?
You can do the classic, like, go nuts.
Yeah, anything
I'll do it for you.
All right.
I don't need the gun, John. I don't need the gun. I'm not going to shoot you between the eyes. I'm going to shoot you between the balls.
Oh, man.
That's great.
I know, I'm still a sicko after all this time. What can I say?
Brilliant.
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks a lot, Vernon. It's been great talking to you.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you for being interested in interviewing me.
Always. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.